Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have the Benchmade Bugout 535bk-4 6-month review. So this particular knife is my very first Benchmade. It is also the best, the most spec'd out bugout they make with 70-75 aluminum handles, M390. We'll get into that all later. Okay, so the first thing I want to cover in today's review of this bugout is my kind of like philosophy on how I use my knives. So like for example, this being a relatively slim EDC folder knife, I'm not going to take it and try to make it a fixed blade. I'm not going to like baton wood with it. You know, I'm a very firm believer in different things for different purposes. So this is like a really great box knife, you know, cardboard, rope, stuff like that, but we'll get into all that. But I just want to, disclaimer, I'm not going to be using this knife ever for like batoning wood or, you know, fixed blade things. It's certain knives for certain purposes, and we're going to cover this purpose of this knife. All right, so for some specifications and some measurements. So first off, the blade length is 3.24 inches. The thickness of the blade is 0.09. When the knife isn't completely open, it's 7.46 inches. When completely closed, it is 4.22 inches. The handle thickness is 0.41, and it weighs 2.5 ounces. So the materials on this knife. First off, we have our handles. So these handle scales are 70-75, Benchmade calls it aircraft grade aluminum, but it's just 70-75 aluminum. There's no anodizing on this, it's just pure aluminum, which is nice because usually anodizing will scratch and will kind of weather, whereas this, at least in my experience, has not weathered yet. However, the thumb stud and back spacers are red anodized aluminum, and the blade steel is M390. So M390 is known for corrosion resistance and edge retention. However, M390 is also known to be relatively chippy blade steel. So if you're using this for super heavy duty tasks, I would expect some light chipping in this blade. However, it is worth noting, I have not gotten a single chip in this blade in my 6 months of ownership. Okay, so the blade shape on this is a drop point blade. Very simple, very utilitarian, very practical. It's going to be great for opening boxes, great for cutting through rope, cardboard, you know, all the normal things you might encounter in a day. It can feather stick really well for a lightweight EDC folder. It can, you know, carve some wood if you need it to. Drop point's just a very good overall blade shape. They're pretty good at piercing. Not like at the greatest, like a Tanto, but, you know, it's a really great middle ground. Alright, so let's talk about this coating. This is a Cerakote, which is known for being a pretty tough and durable coating. So, in my 6 months of having this knife, I've noticed some coating wear on the edges. It may not show up on the tip of this knife here, but it is like up here on this spine. I've also noticed some scratching underneath this Benchmade logo, like right here, where you'll really use it for hard use. But other than that, this Cerakote has held up really well. I've noticed, you know, no corrosion issues, which I wouldn't expect from M390. But all in all, I'm really happy with the Cerakote. I love the aesthetic that it gives, you know, black blade with a nice silver handle, looks really nice. But yeah, I expect this Cerakote to hold up for a really long time after this. So on the topic of the blade of this knife. So this particular blade, M390, holds an incredible edge. I've never actually sharpened this blade. Normally all I ever do is use my Work Sharp Benchmade field sharpener and strop it. Once I did touch it up on a fine ceramic rod, but I could have just stropped it. I just wanted to go a little bit faster. But if you do this about every week, this strop, it ends up being really good. So I have actually not stropped this knife in about a week, so let's test the sharpness and see if I can maybe go a little bit longer and just how well M390 holds up. And keep in mind, I use this knife more than once a day. I've actually already done the testing. So at the time of filming this, I'm filming this part after I've already tested the blade, so you can factor that in as well. All right, so let's see how, the generic paper test. So as you can see, it's not bad. Now I'm just gonna touch it up on this strop really quick. And this is all I ever do with this blade, is I just strop it. Actually, let me go ahead and do this too. How I clean it is I just use 91% alcohol. Put it on a nice cotton ball. And this is how I get all the dirt, germs, and just whatever else may accumulate on this blade off. Sorry about that pause, and knocked the camera over. So now that that's nice and clean, I'll go back to the strop. Just like that. Grab my paper here. You can see that's already much better. So another thing is too is, I don't keep this like shaving sharp. I keep it at a nice working edge, because I use this knife, I work with it. So I want it to be sharp enough that it'll easily cut things, but not so sharp that the blade just chips immediately. Next thing let's talk about is the handle. So like I said before, these handle scales are 70-75 aluminum, which is known for being one of the toughest aluminums out there. So one of the things that sold me on this bug out over the other bug outs is that since there's no liners or nothing in it to keep it rigid, the aluminum on this handle doesn't allow for any flex, which is fantastic. It really helps the durability of this handle. So that's one of the reasons I picked up this aluminum scaled one. So you might ask, well, aluminum usually shows wear. Have I seen any wear on this? Since this handle's not anodized, I haven't actually seen any dings or nicks or scratches on this, which I really like because I'm not personally a big fan of worn looking aluminum, but like it would be okay on like the thumb stud and these back spacers, but I feel like on the actual scales, worn aluminum wouldn't look that great. But that's just a personal opinion of mine. If you like that, I would definitely not expect any wearing on this handle. So next, for the ergonomics of this handle, or the handle scales. So when you hold it in your hand, it feels really good. As you can see, it fills out my large-sized hands really well. However, because of the low profile of the knife, when you're really bearing down on it or doing some hard work, the pocket clip and this jimping, along with a couple other places along the bottom, tend to dig into your webbing right here on your hands. So while it's not like the most uncomfortable thing, there's knives out there that don't have that. So that, and the knives out there that don't have that are a little bit more comfortable for hard use. But granted, like I've said earlier, this knife isn't necessarily made for super hard use. It's more of like just a lightweight EDC folder. So this handle being thin and lightweight really excels at that. But that's why I believe in a tool for a purpose. Each tool has a purpose. And so let's talk about the action on this knife. So this is Benchmade's just very traditional axis lock, Flick the thumb stud, the blade opens. Pull the axis lock bar, it closes. Mine actually came not quite this loose. It's loosened up quite a bit, but, you know, very nice and loose. I've actually never had to really break this in. It came this smooth, but it's super flippy, super fun to play with, very fidgety. People can sometimes get annoyed when you're just flipping this back and forth like this. It's ambidextrous, so you know the axis lock bars left side and right side, and the pocket clip's the same way. You can flip it left or right. So you lefties out there, Benchmade doesn't leave you out. One of my favorite things to do is grab the axis lock bar and then just flip it out like that. It's not necessarily the greatest thing for the knife, but I've never noticed a problem with the Omega springs, so I'm gonna keep doing it until I have a problem. But this action. So I should briefly mention the one, like you could say, damaged thing I've had. So my thumb stud, you can notice maybe it's slightly not aligned. Well, right here on this side, there's a tiny little chip. You can see that there. So what's happened is this is actually bent. The screw that goes in here is actually bent. So I assume what happened is it got dropped. I mean, I've dropped it a couple times. It's a knife. You drop it. But, you know, it still goes on just fine, and it still works. So I'm just going to leave it on there until it breaks off. But, you know, another good reason where I go back to Benchmade's Life Sharp warranty, they'll take care of that thumb stud for me for free if it ever does break. But since I'm okay, so talk about like the pros and what I love about this knife. So, for starters, the blade steel is M390. I love M390. It keeps a great edge, never rusts. It's really great blade steel. So I love the handle as well. You know, being aluminum, it's never flexing. It's always super strong and durable. I love the axis lock. I always need a one-handed knife. It's always nice to be able to open a knife with just one hand. You know, put it back in your pocket, open it back out with one hand, close it with one hand. Can do it with my left hand as well, not as well as I can do it with my right hand. I'm obviously right-handed, but it's just nice to have options. You know, you can access your knife any way you want to. You know, obviously Benchmade's Life Sharp warranty is fantastic, but just this knife as a whole is just a great everyday carry knife for just, you know, everything you could pretty much want it for. Granted, like I've said before, it might not do the greatest at like the hard use tasks, but for just an everyday carry knife, you know, that you just want something that's gonna last forever, have a great edge, and just be comfortable, this may just be the best knife out there for you. I mean, the Benchmade Bugout I know has gotten a ton of popularity these last couple of years, and I mean it's easy to see why. It's just like this knife, everything about it's great. For what it is, it's probably one of the best knives in the market. Just the blade shape is great. You can pierce with it, you can cut with it, you can, you know, like dig wood with it, you know, all the good things. And then Benchmade, you know, with their material choices, they always do a great job, but M390 on this, M390 is like one of the most premium steels for this class, and getting it on a Bugout is just fantastic. It's a great combination. And this 7075 aluminum, I love that it's not anodized. It'll never have dings in it like that right there. It'll always stay this nice pristine condition, unless you drop it like super hard and you just absolutely chip it. But that's going to be a rarer case than wearing off anodizing. So it's like Benchmade chose the materials to make this knife last a lifetime. And the price may be expensive, but you know, buy once, cry once. This may just be one of the best knives ever. I mean, it's got a lanyard hole, so you could do a little paracord wrap and like wrap a pinky through and then hold on to it. It might not be for bushcraft, might not be for super hard use, but for an EDC folder, this may just be the best one on the market. Leave a comment down below if you can think of a better one, or if you can think of one that competes well with this. But guys, I mean, cardboard, rope, you name it, this knife can do it. You know, over my 6 months of owning this knife, it's held up great. I've actually never touched the factory edge. I just had a strop in, like I've said before. It's just, like, there's just this knife. It's just fantastic. It's It's like it's designed to last a lifetime. And I'll probably have this knife for 15 years. It's a fantastic knife. And in 6 months, I mean, yeah, it's got a little bit of like chipping right there on the anodizing. Maybe there's a couple scratches on the pocket clip, but I mean, the Cerakoting is almost still perfect. I mean, granted, it's dirty right now. I've been using it to open boxes and such. But the edge is still gorgeous with no chips. It's just... And, like, I'm not nice to my knives. Like, I use them. When I buy something, I buy it to use it. So this knife is just... It's amazing. Just do keep in mind this is cedar, this is not fat wood, so it is a little harder to feather stick. As you can see, the jimping right here really digs into my thumb, so maybe not the greatest for that. So it'll definitely do it. Alright, so next let's show off how well it can cut some rope. This is some pretty strong rope. Not really sure what it is, but... So that was extremely easy, as you can see. This edge geometry is great for going through just about anything like this. And this really doesn't hurt my hand either. Granted, paracord is a little bit thicker than this, but it still does good in paracord. I just don't have any here to test. But yeah, check this out. I mean, it's just easily making quick work of this rope. Looks good. So next up for our light testing, we have some cardboard here. This is just decently thick cardboard off of like an Amazon box. So as you can see, it's making quick work of this cardboard. That M390 is really helping with edge retention. And you can see, well, you may not be able to see on camera, but there's absolutely no chipping in this blade. So I know that they say that M390 tends to be a little bit more of a chippy blade steel, but I don't notice any chipping. And any like little tiny microchips that I've had in this have been minimal enough that it hasn't mattered. But yeah. It cuts through cardboard, rope, and wood really great. Okay, so the price on this knife. Now, Benchmade has this listed at $300. That's a lot of money. even for M390 and even for 7075 aluminum. However, if you go to Benchmade dealers just around the country and maybe in your local area, you can see this knife for as low as $183. That is where I picked mine up. It was a Benchmade dealer in Kentucky, but $183 for this is definitely worth it. M390, 7075 aluminum. So I necessarily don't think that 300 is out of line, but it's not like the greatest price. I feel like for $300 there might be some better options out there. But if you can find this at a Benchmade dealer for like $250, right around there, this is definitely worth it. So another reason that this knife is worth the price that it brings is Benchmade has their Life Sharp service. So not only will they sharpen your knife for life, but they'll also fix anything that's broken, stripped, all for free. Or, now I've heard like occasionally if like you absolutely just destroy the blade, it'll cost you like $80, which that's a small price to pay when the knife is $300. So in my opinion, that definitely adds to the value of these blades. I mean, the fact that your knife has a lifetime service warranty on it, and you never have to worry about anything bad happening to it because the company will fix it for you, is a really great peace of mind. I mean, it's essentially you never have to worry about this knife, even if it does break, because Benchmade takes care of you. So that's really cool. And alright guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more awesome knife content.